Gentlemen, welcome in. Thank you for tuning into a first live for 2025. 2024 is gone. We are now into 2025. And what I'm seeing from YouTube and watch creators of content is they're reflecting on the things that they have done in the past. And I figured instead of making an actual video for it, let me just jump on live and talk about some of the things that I have come across in this journey of YouTube as a reviewer of watches. Some of the things that I have done reviews on, what was my opinions looking back now. Now, the channel isn't exactly a year old. I'm about 11 months in, I would say. So we're just rounding off a year. It's been quite the journey, man. It kind of reflects like when I started collecting watches, watching the channel grow, watching the different directions that I've taken, how that's molded, what I want to focus on moving forward. Lone Rangers in the building. Good afternoon, sir. Hi ho, Silva. So I want to come on here today, and I have my assistant up here, and I'm kind of just going to go through the videos that I've done, taking a look at the watches. Of course, I have some watches here to show you, because it wouldn't be a live channel talking watches if I didn't have watches to actually show you guys. And then I want to give you my opinion on some of maybe like the most striking watch that I've done a review for. I'll give you a couple opinions, right? Some of the things that are in separate categories, if you will. So some of the watches are independent brands. Some of them are homage, clomage. Some of them are starter companies, right? I was pretty flexible in my content, doing interviews with owners, presenting watches for the first time, doing regular reviews. I was testing the waters on a lot of things, man. And I do like the content that I'm putting out there. I like the diversity because everything that I put out there is what I experience as a collector. So really, you're just watching the experience of a collector and kind of vibing out, if you will, with that. And yeah, I just wanted to go through and just vibe with you guys. Michael, good afternoon, sir. Welcome in. So I'm just looking at my page now. I'm starting from the very beginning. So the very, very beginning, let me touch on that a little bit. I don't want to stay too long on that because I know for a lot of you, it may not be a thing that you're looking forward to, and I don't want to bore you guys. But what I have come across a couple of times is people asking me or telling me that they have aspirations to starting their own channel talking watches. And there are a lot of content out there that will give you direction in how to start a YouTube channel. There isn't any content out there specifically starting off with a YouTube channel talking watches. Now, my plan is to make a separate video, and I think that I'm going to keep that video just as a link only, so it's not going to be public. It's just going to be if I come across another collector or somebody inspiring to start a channel talking watches, I may make a video directly speaking towards that, right? Not the fundamentals of YouTube and creating a channel and how to grow and da-da-da. There's plenty of content out there, but specifically how to do it nowadays with the channel and just basically give my experience on how I came into the market of YouTube and how I decided to go about it. I think a lot of people have gravitated to it. I received a lovely compliment yesterday. I watched a video where somebody gave a shout out and said that my videos are a vibe of just community, collecting. It's not in it for anything else but value to creating that kind of atmosphere. And that was one of the loveliest compliments that I could have ever gotten from anyone. And I really do appreciate that. I have a lot of fun and I wouldn't be anywhere without you guys. So thank you so much. Thunderjaw, hello, bro. You Indian? I'm not Indian. I do get that. If I take off my hat and you see my nappy hair, maybe then you could tell I'm actually African American and Puerto Rican. But I do get Indian sometimes. My wife is Southeast Asia, so I have a little bit in that. So anyway, so I want to take a look at my channel, man. I'm really just reflecting with you guys on where we started. So touching on that a little bit, right? When I started YouTube, I started just hitting record, right? A lot of things that people get caught up with, and again, we're not going to spend too much time about this, but a lot of people get caught up with the equipment or do I have enough watches or do I have this and do I have that? Guys, I just hit record, and you know this because if you watch my first video, which technically my second video is actually my very first one, it was not good. The passion was there. I could see that guy and where he wanted to go. But I think I just waited for a mic to come in, right? So when I decided to come on here and talk watches, it was like a week turnaround, not even a full week. I ordered a very simple mic and I just waited for that to come in. But even then, I would say you don't even have to worry about having a mic. If you have a smartphone, and guys, I use my smartphone for all of my production, all of my editing, everything else. If you are thinking about talking about watches, chances are you have watches in your collection. So don't even bother yourself with, oh, I have to make connections and I have to, see if I can, gravitate to some other brands before I could come on here and talk watch. If you have watches in your collection, even if they're older watches, because here's the deal. This year, I'm actually going to be reviewing watches that were already in my collection and reflect on that. I think that there's value in looking back to a watch that's even not a new release, but giving an update on how you feel about the watch after having it for 1, 2, 3, 4 years even. So that's something that I do want to focus on. And if you are thinking about starting your channel talking watches, forget about the gear, forget about everything, man. If you have a smartphone, hit record. Now, here's the deal. You may say to yourself, I'm not brave enough to just put that first video out there. Cool. Keep it on. See, when you upload a video onto YouTube, you can schedule it, or you can list it as unlisted, which anybody with the link can see it, or you can keep it as private where nobody can see it but yourself. So get some practice runs in. Start recording yourself. Start seeing, how you can improve and work on editing and everything else. And if you don't want to put the video out right away, you don't have to. And again, we're going to dive a little bit deeper on more of an unlisted video that I'm going to create for anybody who's an enthusiast that's inspired. Maybe they watch my channel, maybe they watch other people. And if you come to me and you say, hey, I'm thinking about starting a channel, I'm going to say, cool. Here's the link. Here's a video where I go into detail about how I got into talking about watches and everything of the like. So that's that. What's on the wrist is what I should be talking about. Now, I showed this watch to you guys. It was in a different kit. I decided to bring it back to the original case to it. Now, technically, this is still a modification because this module doesn't belong to this yellow band. I had a couple of these, so I just mixed and matched. It's a summertime vibe, but I wanted to turn it back to a funky chicken. And I had the AP kit on here, which was steel, and then it had a rubber strap. I didn't gravitate to it too much for some reason. I don't know if it was the size. I don't know what it really was about it, but on wrist, and I wasn't wristing it that much, so I decided to bring it back to its originality. This way, let me maybe flip this around. This way, it's kind of smaller, and it just is a little bit more low-key, and I'm happy with the actual. Now, this is a very cheap band, if you will. It doesn't feel too good to lace up. So what I might do, this is nice because it has quick release here. I might just get the modification to this lug width where it turns it to a 20 millimeter, and then I could turn this to a strap monster. At the same time, it'll tone it down. It won't be so yellow. So it'll give it more of that winter vibe or whatever kind of vibe you're trying to go for if you're trying to tone it down and everything else. So DK's in the building. Good afternoon, sir. Thomas, hello. Thelonious Monk, what's up, brother, man? Uh-oh, some people got timed out already, huh? I guess that question was a setup to something else. Hi, I am new. Barry, welcome in. Welcome to the Watch Collecting Talk channel. What's up, Thelonious? So that's what I have on wrist, and I am going to still do some modifications to this. This is obviously, I told you guys before, this is the Bluetooth version, which I absolutely love this. Not having any issues anymore keeping it charged that I talked about before. So I still want to find out what was the issue, but if it doesn't happen again, then maybe it was just keeping it charged frequently is probably the thing. But I love the watch. It's a funky chicken. It's an affordable watch. We're talking about 100 and a little bit of 100 and change. I know they have models that are 100 sub for this watch. This is the, what model is this? This is the GAB, I believe. GAB 2100 series, B indicating the Bluetooth. So love the watch, and I'm going to wear it. I'm going to wear it. I'm going to wear it in the wintertime. So that was my little bit of advice on starting a channel talking watches. And I definitely, guys, here's the deal. It depends on who you talk about, right? If you talk about starting a channel talking watches and you talk to some people may not be feeling it. They may not encourage it. Don't worry about what other people say. If you have something to say, there aren't too many channels out there as people proclaim. A lot of people have different categories that they talk about, and it doesn't matter. Even if there's 300 channels, 400, 1,000, a million, they're not you, right? They don't have your experience. If you feel like you have something to say and you have something to contribute, I think we need more people talking about watches, not less. My opinion, and that's what I'm sticking to. So, after which, I did a couple of videos talking about watches, mistakes to avoid, mechanical versus quartz. I showed you guys my state of the collection. Now, I can say that if I was doing the vibe of where I should have started releasing videos versus just releasing my practice runs, I released my practice runs. I didn't care. I want you guys to see where I really started and how that was really a transition. So you guys are seeing like very first uncut videos from my first ones that came out. Not a lot of people watch it, so that's another thing people fear. It's like, well, if I put a bad video out there, there's gonna be millions of people that see that and think that I suck. Ain't nobody watching your first videos. Ain't nobody watching your first videos. YouTube doesn't know you. YouTube is an algorithm machine. You're new to their programming. They still haven't found where you're gonna fit until a couple of people. So just start. Just start. Forget about the mic. Forget about the equipment. Forget about the nerves. If you have the nerves, take some practice runs and then put it public when you feel like the video is worth that. That's just my advice. So from there, man, I went to the Orient Bambino, and you guys know in how I feel about the Orient Bambino, talking about vintage watches before, how it's a great start. It's an affordable way to start off with that. And again, you're seeing a lot of reflection of what was in my collection very early on. Over this year, my collection has increased tremendously, even with some things that were gifted. Technically, I think I only purchased like one watch this year out of my own money that I put in there, which I have with me today, which is why I want to add that to the discussion. But then from the Bambino review, which I thought that was, starting to get my feet in there. I was like, okay. I talked about homage watches very early on. You guys know in this channel, we accept all watches, homage. We did a live talking about homage versus clomage, which I think is where most of the static is produced, right? And obviously you're going to get a lot of people who don't really gravitate to a clomage or a 1-for-1 or whatever you want to call it. And I understand and respect everybody's views and opinions on it. That's okay. For me, I gave you guys my reasons why on the other live that I did specifically on homage and clomage, and why I think that there are benefits and everything of the like. But I can't say this. As I mature as a collector, I gravitate less towards the clomage. Homage is still cool because homage has a very, listen, you could only have a homage of a bezel that resembles a watch and the rest is completely different, right? So that's an actual homage, and you can take a few inspirations, but an actual homage watch is just that. It's not an exact copy. It has enough separation itself, and a clomage watch is another watch too. So you guys know my thoughts on that. The SKX 009, you guys hear me talk about that a lot. That was my next video. You guys know how I love and feel about that watch. You guys know right now where that watch stands as far as the customizations that I did for it. It is a cult classic. Therefore, I didn't want to touch any of the inside of the watch. I did all of my stuff on the outside of the watch. So, that's exactly how it stands. I don't respect homage hater opinions. They're a waste of time. Make a better watch or shut up and keep opinions where they belong. Yeah, man, and it is a very dicey subject, DK. It is something that everybody stresses their opinion on it. I mean, listen, if you have an opinion, cool. Everybody's allowed to have an opinion at the end of the day. It may bore us to hear the same thing because it's an old subject. Like, let's move on. However you feel about it, you feel about it. And that's kind of like how I feel, DK. That's why when I show my homage watches or clomage, whatever, I just say, here it is. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. You have your reservations. It is what it is. You know what I mean? Senor Santana in chat room. What's up, Raymond? What's going on, brother? Ben 10 is in. Ben 10 news. I feel like that was an actual news caster or something like that. Oh, well, I gotta start somewhere. Yes, the math about having 50 watches and dividing it by 2 for more wrist time got me. You like that, right? I'm no mathematician, but if I have 50 watches and I have 2 wrists, now I'm not double wristing today. I wasn't in the mood. But I do, whenever I feel like doing that, I go ahead and do it. My first videos are so cringy. but I've enjoyed the process of learning and finding my own groove. Exactly, brother man. And I've watched my first videos a couple of times just for, you know what, and giggles. But I'm proud of them now, right? Like, and at the time when they were released, that was the best that I could do. So I was proud of myself even from the very first videos when they were first created. I was like, all right, I did it though. I got on there, I talked about it, I did the best that I could, and I went from there. But it's so nice to be able to reflect. I haven't hit an exact year yet, but I at least feel like it's a big difference. I don't know if you guys feel the same on my videos. What's your thoughts on Invicta collection? Invicta collection, man. Jose, just so you know, on this channel, dude, I don't have anything negative to say about anybody's collection, whether it be Invicta, fashion brands. The only thing that I don't like is fakes. Like I definitely don't encourage fakes at all. And I don't get what it's getting weird here again, guys. Let me get some hot in these rhinos. Who knows what that's from? I don't have a problem with any way somebody wants to collect. I don't have a problem with Invicta at all. And I'm not one of those people that say Invicta's cool because they have that, you know, that one watch that everybody's okay with, that Submariner homage. And like, if they're not okay with it, they're just okay with that watch. I'm okay with any of the watches from their collection. In fact, I have a 53 millimeter by them. Now, I am graduating, or not graduating. I am stepping away from those size watches just because for me, they're a little heavy. They're a little bulky. And when I started collecting, I love that. But now with the weight of it, I do a lot of driving. So you feel that weight on your wrist. It's a brick. Nothing bad to say about Invicta. I have more experienced people that I follow and I follow along to. I can say that I feel like the Invicta as a whole is kind of on the decline, and they're misstepping where they're not listening to the public and what they want. And this is coming from collectors that have hundreds and hundreds of Invictas, okay? That's not coming from me. I can't have an opinion like that on Invicta because I don't have a lot of their watches. But as far as what I've been seeing Invicta collectors step away from them altogether, right? And I'm talking about people who have hundreds and hundreds of their watches. It's a very unfortunate thing because at the end of the day, Invicta was for a certain collector, clearly because they owned a lot of them, and that still kept people having watches on their wrist, which kept them in the culture of community, which is what we're all about. So that is the reason why I know a lot of people are going to unsubscribe for me saying I like and I approve of fashion watches if it fits for you, right? And my collection reflects on that. I really have a broad range. The only thing I'm missing from my collection technically is a luxury brand. And that's just because I don't want to spend the money on a luxury brand right now. Other than that, the first watch that I ever had that was given to me by my wife was a fashion brand, a Michael Kors. I love that watch. It has a lot of sentimental value. And there's maybe different reasons why somebody collects a fashion brand or collects an Invicta. Whatever works for you and whatever keeps an Apple Watch off of you. And I'm no hater of the Apple Watch, man. I have one. I wristed one for a long time. Listen, if it helps as a gateway drug to watches, then I'm okay with the Apple Watch because the Apple Watch got me used to having something on wrist more often, and slowly but surely, here we are. So that was a long answer. Skylar, you kind of influenced me to start a double wrist. Go for it, bro. Go. You know what it is? Do it. See how you feel about it. Don't care what other people think. But I'm not saying that, oh, double wristing is the way and it's going to make you feel really good and cool. No, if you do it and you like it and it makes sense for you, then continue it. Because I don't do it every day. There's some days where I'm like, I'm not in the mood. And then there's some days where I'm like, oh, and then I like get crafty. You know how you guys match up what goes into your watch box? Like I like to pair watches. That's just me. I like to see how I could pair the watches together. There's often times where I match my custom bronze to the Mark Time watch, and I call them the Bronze Brothers. And I show up to watch meets sometimes like that, or watch shows rather. So I have a lot of fun with that. I have a watch, but the brand is weird. Tiffany something. Tiffany, that color was super popular. If that's the brand name, then that's something different that you're talking about, Cobra. But hey, man, listen. As long as you got a watch, baby, put it on wrist and be proud of it. Watches are for you, sir, not for anything else. I'll tell you what's good. I've been so sober for 18 months, meaning you don't, you haven't bought any watches, or like an actual addiction that you're sober from. And if that's the case, congratulations on the 18 months, brother. That's awesome. Okay, let me go back the other way. Yeah, I agree about the Victor. I agree about the Victor not caring. Got you. I don't think Invicta respects their fan base. That's the biggest problem, dude. And listen, Invicta's not the only person that is guilty of such. And I think that at this stage in the game, guys, you know, we're talking about projections and everything else. I think the projection for a community as a whole, people want to be involved. People want to be heard. People want to be, if you're a person that only puts a certain company in your collection, especially if you're that type of company, then yeah, you should listen to the people. I mean, the writing's on the wall with that. You know what I mean? Like, that's the biggest mistake that any brand at any level, I think, is a big mistake to ignore, right? That is, listen, when we talk about advertising, selling watches, feedback should be the most crucial thing for you as a brand, especially when it comes to watch enthusiasts, people who are nerdy about this stuff. So you got to listen to the people. They've cheapened their reserve line. I heard that was a big thing. Invicta fans can't even defend the brand anymore. That is so heartbreaking to see, brother, man, because like I said, as much as people were motivated to talk about it, there was channels dedicated on it. There was big communities. They did cruises. I was shocked, man. I was shocked, and I'm sad to hear the decline of that, or any other company for that matter, right? So going down the list of my watch reviews, I tackled custom Casios, which I showed you guys, my G-Shocks and my Casio squares of the like. So if you missed that, you can watch the other live. That was a lot of fun to do. All right, so ripping down the actual reviews that I've done, Seiko Arnie was another cool watch that I put in my collection. I don't think I put it in last year. I think it was the year before, but I already did a review on that, so maybe I'm not going to do another review, but that was super fun, man. And that was when I was really starting to get my feet wet with doing like reviews and doing the B-roll. I believe I started doing a little bit of B-roll on there, so that was pretty cool. I showed you guys my Casio Predator, the wrist computer that I did a modification for to resemble that. We talked about the Seagull as well on the last review, so this is going good. I covered a lot of stuff. Now, Third Watch. Third Watch was my first Microbrand that reached out to me to do a review, and I was the first reviewer, and it was their first release. So that one was very special to me. I really felt humbled by the fact that I was the person that they chose to come to do a review on that. That's a lot of off-the-shelf parts when it came to his watch. Obviously, a lot of Sin inspiration, and you guys can check out any of the videos that I'm talking about, obviously. We're just doing a reflection of the whole entire year for me as a watch reviewer and the watches that I've come across. So that one was a good start, man. And that was what really formulated my ideas about the different ways that watch brands enter into the market, right? And that one, again, was more off-the-shelf parts, but a fantastic person that owned that company did their review. I sent that watch back, and that was a lot of fun, man. And that was really like a privilege. DK, listen, yesterday I went to his bed and say, okay, you guys are talking amongst yourself. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything towards me. Oh man, a lot of people getting timed out, man. Don't come on here, man. I got bodyguards, bro. Thank you guys for moderating the chat, man. Guys, come on here and talk watches. That's about it. If you're talking about anything else, I'm sorry, but my security guards are going to have to take care of that. Venicico is something that I talk about a lot. I know that I'm like the mascot. They're like, stop with the Venicico talk. I can't stop. Guys, they're going to be a household brand at this point. If you're looking at the way that they're moving, and if we're talking about, that's perfect timing, because we just talked about a brand that's not listening to their community, and they're not putting forth in their community. Venicico is collaborating with a lot of people. If you just type in their name and you do the search where you're just looking for like more up-to-date videos on it, you're gonna see a lot of people doing reviews on them. They're doing a lot of reviews on their collections. So we're seeing a lot of collaborations with them. They're really looking to do a push, especially towards the back end of the year. We saw a lot of people covering their watches, and for good reason. I was over here talking about Venicico 7 months ago, and that was a watch, as you guys know, was their Venturine, where I made that. My wife bought that for me for my 35th birthday. And I don't know, I just kind of had that feeling when I saw them at the show. I kind of knew that they were going to be bigger, much bigger than what they were 7 months down the road, even a year from then, right? And I don't think that I'm wrong. I think that they are making some moves. They're making collaborations. And I think it's beautiful because at the end of the day, their watches remind me of art. They have a very artistic way of going about their watches. They do all the fundamentals of finishing and everything else. The only caveat that people can have is about the NH35, but we're not going to get into all of that. You guys know by now where I stand. I try my best not to be repetitive on my lives and kind of like, if I talked about that, let me move on. But they are one of the brands to watch out for. They're making exquisite timepieces. I think that they always have, but they're really putting special dials into play. They're putting special materials into play. We have one of their watches here that I'm gonna show you guys as well. And I really think that they're the brand to watch. I missed the Invicta comment about the company said, "To hell with you, dummies. Disrespect his employees, so we don't have a chance." Oh man, yikes! Yup. That's crazy. That's crazy. Welcome in, Travis. By the way. Gotta respect the hustle. Everyone's out here trying to put in that work. Venicico is grinding like they should. Exactly, dude. That's it. That was my whole focus on it, right? I don't give anybody special treatment just because. I really watch what they're doing. And for me, if you want to gain the most value and respect, for me personally as a collector, I want to see what you're doing in the community. I want to see what your hustle is. I want to see how hungry you are. And I want to see the transitions, and I want to see the transitions quickly, okay? Because that's where we're at. The expectations and the level of what we expect as watch enthusiasts, and we're talking about people with 50 plus watches, or you may have less, but when we talk about people that are ready to increase their collection, yeah, you have to give value. And the word value is changing very rapidly, and we'll get into that. After the Venicico Venturina, I went to a Speedy homage video because I like to touch on homage watches. I showed you guys a custom version that I did because Speedy Tuesday is a thing. There's several ways that you can go about it. I believe I talked about it in that video as well, where I talked about the moon swatch. We've talked about the BLP. I did a custom version of it. Guys, when it comes to a Speedmaster and a homage for that, or a clomage, whatever you want, there's so many out there. You can really take your time and get whatever vibes with you the most and move about it that way. Thelonious, again, another timeout. Sheesh. What's going on? Space G? Is Space G in here? Yes, sir. Space G's in the building. What's going on, brother? After that, I did another Casio mod, which, again, that's another thing that I like to do as well. I sprinkle in the modifications that I do, as you guys know. So that's always going to be a part of the channel. The only difference, the only caveat for 25 now is that I think that I'm going to keep them separately. So when I have a modification video come out, I'm still going to do a review, and I'm going to try to stay to that week-to-week basis. From there, we went to San Martin, and then San Martin wasn't an official collaboration in that they didn't send me their watch. I paid for it. I had to sink my teeth in it because there was a lot of talk about San Martin, as you guys know, and there still are. There's a lot of several different directions that we can take the conversation that could probably be alive on its own. But I had to see what the deal was with them. And they came out with the 118-G, which was a summertime vibe. It had an orange dial. I did a review on it if you want to check it out. And I was impressed. It was really the watch that they talked it out to be. The finishing was there. The parts were high quality. On their mesh bracelet to that watch, it actually had a diver extension and quick release diver extension where you just push a button. That got married to my BLP, as I've mentioned before. So from their bracelet, right? And this is, so San Martin, I don't know. I think a lot of people would kind of classify at this point, not kind of like a mass-produced Chinese brand. They're more like a micro brand or an independent brand. I think people would lean more so saying it's a micro brand. But they've entered into our space heavily, and they're moving and they're grooving, and they're not just doing homages, right? They're doing now their own kind of style to their watches in the San Martin alone. But then they came out this year with Zheng Heng. Zheng Heng, if you guys don't know, is a sister company of San Martin that's going to focus on the independent and micro brand space heavily, where it's only going to be unique designs. And even still, listen, people are still going to relate their watches to some kind of watch. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is not removing a logo. We're talking about actually putting together different design languages to make their own watch. The War Drum was their first one. I believe they have a diver out here. I have my eyes on Zheng Heng as much as I would have my eyes on San Martin. Now, San Martin has graduated heavily on making Gata watches, but they also make a lot of fun watches within that. Now, Zheng Heng, like I said, is going to be focused on independent. And the difference between that is you're not going to AliExpress. You're going only to their website, and you're only purchasing their watches from the website. Now, what I would like to see from Zheng Heng, if you're listening, or if anybody has a conversation with them, you got to get some representation to the shows. If you're going to act like an independent brand, you got to move like one, or a micro brand, however you want to slice it. I would like to see their watches after a couple of collections come out. Get them to a show, get them in front of people, let people touch and feel their watches. It's great that you're giving the watches out to reviewers to do reviews. That is the closest thing you can get to actually experiencing it. But even better would be going to the shows. And I have a lot of good feeling about Zheng Heng. Mark my word, they've definitely shocked us with what they've given us now, and we can expect the same quality, if not better. Now, I think they were only messing with NH movements thus far. They want to enter into the market. Now, we talked about this a lot with independent brands, right? How they segue into the market. And they are well established off of the San Martin. How much money transfers over and how much money they want to dedicate is their business. But again, a reliable, affordable movement, keeping things affordable as they enter in, and then slowly graduating is, I think, where they're going to go. So we're probably going to see Miyotas. We're probably going to see different higher caliber movements as they graduate and they grow into this space. Vario is another conversation, because that's the next review that I did. Vario is a strap brand that gone to watches. I was able to experience a few of their straps. I always advocate for that. That was also in another live. They make fantastic straps. One big key strap that they make that I am in love with is the F91W. I put a leather strap onto mine. Fantastic. But they also have watches, and we'll get to that because I didn't experience that right away. I did the review for that. They actually sent me watches. Fantastic owner. I really want to bump into him in one of the shows, because he just makes artistic watches and a lot of inspiration from vintage watches as well. And having the patent on the watch that flips over and everything else, he's doing great things. And it's nice to see somebody from a strap company enter into the market. And I think he's made his mark enough to for people to have a build-up and be gravitated to him. Let me just check chat. Okay, that's the trap. I opened my Zheng Heng Deep Challenger. Oh yeah, you do have the watch. It looks good. On this inside, nothing crazy. Okay, so you opened up the watch. But for the price, I think it's acceptable. Okay, fair enough. And, you know, it's going to be hard not to say that, knowing that it was birthed from San Martin. So there's obvious that expectation. Like, it would be a shocker at this point if Zheng Heng had crappy finishing, right? That wouldn't make any sense. So obviously they're going to have nice finishing, and you opened up the watch. So that's cool. I believe that was also, if I'm not mistaken, DK, they made an NH35 for the Challenger and an NH34 for a GMT version of that model. Moving on to the next video that I created, how to remove and install. So I did a video just showing you guys how to remove and install. That's another like modification one, if you will. I featured the Watch Crunch inspired build that I did for that watch. Very special for me to build a watch for the community. That was really cool. Then I went to affordable watches. I went into the Clomages. I did a collaboration with Tandorio. And the first watch that I did was their GMT watch. And, you know, you guys could see the video, so you could see my take from it. But that was really cool. And I believe that that was the first collaboration that I did where they sent me the watch. They let me keep it. Because, look, affordable watch at that caliber, you know, and a company that's decently established, they can afford to send the watch and not have it sent back, unlike the first review that I did for the other video. What was the name again? third watch, right? He was just starting his company, right? So people who are just starting their companies, and Mark Well, that's another brand that's just getting their feet wet. I by no means say, well, I'm spending all this time, so I have to keep the watch. No, I don't want to hurt a company. If that is not within their budget, no problem. Send me the watch. I'm excited to present it and show it off and do the review. And if it's something where, you know, you don't have the expenditure to keep the watches out there, or if you just don't want to, you don't believe in that model, that's cool as well. Mark from Island Watch was very vivid about that in his video, and I respect and understand. And honestly, it doesn't make me feel any differently at all doing any kind of collaboration with anybody who decides to run their business the way that they want to. Big respect. At the end of the day, I still get to experience the watch and do the review. From there, I did an SKX mod. That's also a modification video, obviously. Then I compared the AliExpress Seagull to an actual C-Go. Now, it wasn't the same exact watch, but we were looking for quality. We were looking to see how it compares, buying one from the other in case you're on the fence and you're not sure what you're getting from each party. So I gave my breakdown on that, and I think that that was a great video that had some value on it. And look how sincere he is. Since I've been watching this live, I've seen San Martin pieces in the cart and intense straps. Hey, listen, man, buy responsibly. I'm gonna put my disclaimer at the end as well. From there, so you guys, I'm just gonna go in the general sense of the videos. You guys can see exactly what I formulated towards the end if you want to watch the video. The zero pass strap, man. So also, talking about Watch Crunch, Max from Watch Crunch, the co-founder of that app. You guys know him by the face of his YouTube. He came out with a strap. I did a deep review of the straps. He sent me them. I was able to keep them. And that one had a lot of mixed feelings for reasons that we've talked about here, because you lose the ability for it to be an actual NATO strap. It's not a NATO strap. It's not a NATO strap. It's a zero pass strap. But you guys know the deal about that, I'm sure, by now. I like the straps. I've seen a couple of reviewers do them. They like them too. Once you wrap your mind around the fact that it's not supposed to be a NATO strap, then you kind of go a lot further. That's all I'm going to say. Then, Vario, we connect the dots on a single hand watch, and you guys saw me do the review of that. That was the Navi single hand. Very relaxed, chilled, minimalistic, not the kind of watch you want to wear when you have to be to a meeting by the second, right? It's more of a Sunday type of watch. You put it on and you enjoy the dial and the aesthetics of the watch. I love that watch. That was just to be borrowed, not to be kept. I sent that actually to the next reviewer to do the review on that watch. So I was super grateful that Ivan thought about me to do the review, because I told him after the straps, I said, hey, you know, if you have any watches that you want me to review, you know, just keep my name on your list. You know where I am. So he obliged, and he reached out to me when that was ready and that was within the area to do the review. And then I sent that on to the next reviewer, which is super cool. Which, listen, if you want your watches reviewed, that's a thing too. Yes, you have to still take the loss of the watch, because here's the deal. Getting the watch back, it's not a brand new watch, and you don't know if there's going to be significant scratches and everything of the like. So you might as well chalk that up to be, what do we call that? A watch that goes on tour, and see if you can connect the dots to people that are remotely close to their region and send it on. So that's exactly what we did for the Vario. I love that watch too. And then listen, I haven't done a review on a watch that I didn't like. Why is that? Because if there was a watch that I really was offended by as a watch enthusiast, I'm probably not going to do the review on the watch. I'm not here to spread negativity. I'm not here to bash a watch or a watch company. I am here to report the news, to hopefully they take that information and make the watch better, and or they see the comments from you guys and get your opinion and then take all of that and then make it better, right? Because I'm not an end all be all. However, if you send me a watch that's absolutely trash, which we're not going to really see that because manufacturing has come such a long way, right? Of course, there's improvements that I include. I don't even like to call it strengths and weaknesses. I don't call it weaknesses. Words have power. And I don't necessarily feel like a watch has a weakness. Maybe it's lacking. Maybe there's an improvement. And if there is, of course, there's no such thing as a perfect watch. That's what I'll report. From there, we did an AliExpress build. for my sister-in-law. Absolutely love that watch. I gave you my thoughts on building a custom watch and how I felt that everybody should indulge in that somewhere along the line. We've talked about that topic as well. The watch in that video that I featured 4 months ago was actually the watch that I built for the very first time, so that was really special. I enjoyed making that. Then the Moki came about, man, and as a modifier, I'm in the mix, I'm in the stream of that kind of category, and I reached out to them to do a review. Now, they ended up sending me a watch that was pre-made, one of their watches that you could just purchase off their website, and I went that route intentionally because although I can obviously build watch kits from them, and I did that as well, I wanted to see what quality we were getting from a built watch from them directly, right? I wanted to see what the quality was in general from something that's already pre-made. Are you putting all your eggs in the basket of watch parts and then shortchanging the builds and kind of cutting corners? That's what I wanted to discover. And what I discovered is they're not. The watches that they have pre-built is just like the watches that they have in the kit as far as quality goes. Now, you're building the watch, so that all depends on how good it's going to actually function and if it's going to have, you know, there's those quirks, yeah? How well the hands line up, if there's dust under the dial, if the rotor is moving enough, did you push that movement in enough into the case? There's things of that nature. Do the seals hold up? That's kind of on you because you're the person building it. So keep that in mind and kind of segue to that. Protek, guys, Protek. I think I talked about them not too long ago, but it was a couple of videos back. But I'm glad that I'm doing this, kind of like recapping my year of the watches that I did reviews for, because Protek, man, is a watch company to actually focus on, especially when we talk about tritium technology. When we talk about tritium loon, now we're talking about radioactive gas, right? That's safe, right? Even if you were to eat those tubes, you wouldn't die. You'd probably not want to tell somebody the story, but not to be confused with radium. Great watch, super tactical. In fact, he made his connections with the Navy SEALs and the Army of the like in the past, and he worked for another company that we're not going to mention because it doesn't matter, but he is no noob to tritium tubes. He's actually one of the OGs that brought it to market originally. So Protek is definitely a brand that I would take a look at if you are looking for something new and something different to put into your collection. That's pretty much where I'm at this point. I have design fatigue on the most obvious things, so now I'm looking for something. So if I'm going to go for tritium tubes, I'm going to go from Protek, and you guys will understand this more if you watch my one-on-one interview with him or if you watch my review video. I would employ that you do both, and if you only have time for one, watch the interview that I did with Barry Cohen. Super cool cat, tons of experience. I mean, when he first started doing these things, I was born, right? When he decided to get on a plane to make what he's doing happen. So I want to give them a shout out, man. And I want you guys to check it out if you are interested in tritium tubes. And again, watch my review or my interview rather with him and everything of the like. Let me check on the chat. Guys, I'm sorry. I'll try to focus on chat. I do want to stay within the hour today, but I do want to get through all the videos that I've done and give you guys kind of my 2 cents on them. If someone wants to know that badly about a watch, they can buy the dang thing themselves and make a review. Exactly. If you have any issues with the way reviewers are doing their reviews or anything of the like, listen, it's a free market, baby. It only costs your most valuable asset at the end of the day, which is time. But if you're really if you're really unhappy with, like, let's say your opinion is 95% of the watch reviews that I watch I don't like, go ahead and do it better. I implore you. And I'm not trying to say that like, well, why don't you try to do it better then? No, I legitimately mean, dude, if you're seeing that much of a stark contrast to it, yes, absolutely. Give it a shot. Buy the watch. You don't like going up on video? No problem. Make a website. Write down your reviews. Get in the mix. From there, we did the F91W. Not going to show that again. Not going to beat a dead horse. You guys know I feel for that. I felt like that video was like a rite of passage, right? There's so many review videos of it. I didn't think it was going to get 1 million clicks, but that wasn't the point. That is in contrast to how I want to kind of operate and bring into my channel more. Now, again, I know that Hopefully I'm wrong, but I know that that's probably not going to get a lot of reviews because these are watches in my collection that are already been reviewed and that are out there. They're more like my experience with them years after, but I enjoy making that content and I find that it still has value, so I'm going to do it anyway. Mark Time is a watch that I talked about tremendously here. He sent me a couple of watches. We established a phenomenal relationship. We also did a deep dive interview with him as well. So I implore you guys to take a look at that. Cool cat, man. Entered the market a little differently, and that's where I gained my perspective of off-the-shelf parts versus more of your own design language and more of your own uniqueness to enter into the market. And in the interview, he mentioned that it cost him $100,000 to go about that route, which is why we don't see a lot of brands enter in that way. It costs a lot of money, right? Whether you talk about design language or coming in with a large movement that makes an impact, going back to the Jiangheng, definitely a design difference, but still using NH movements of the like, and that's okay. But it costs a lot of money, therefore the units are going to cost more. And if you're entering into a market, the most important thing is putting watches on wrists, right? So if you stay within at least what an enthusiast will consider of value for the makeup of your watch, then therefore you will sell some watches. And I know he did because I went to the show in Philly where I watched him sell his watches. And fantastic watch. If you guys want to check it out, the first one I did was the M5. We did do the M1.2. He came out with the M6 most recently, and he sent me an email and said, haven't forgot about you. And that's what it's all about. Relationships. That's what I care about. And originally, I wasn't supposed to own any of the Mark Time watches. I was supposed to borrow all of them. I was really appreciative of him entrusting me a lot more so than anything else because he had a watch show that he had to go to, and he gave me all of his personal watches that he likes to obviously show and showcase more from his wrist. And he said, hey, I need them back at this certain time if you don't mind. I said, no problem, cool. Let me do my reviews. I'll send them back to you, and I'll make sure that they're there before those events. And I think it might have been the Philly show, as a matter of fact, or maybe it was something else. But the point is this. He ended up letting me keep the M1.2, and that was not planned. I think even in that video, I probably have to change it to a sponsored review because it was supposed to just be borrowed. And he said, you know what, Skylar, for all your hard work, man, keep the M1.2. And that was my first Miyota movement. I was super appreciative of that. Again, it benefits because I show that watch a lot. I do like the language design. I love the way the brand is moving and where it's going. And you see some refinement in the M16 from a bird's eye view already. So I expect great things from the man. Montrose strap is something that we've talked about a lot. Guys, I'm going to try to keep up with chat, but I'm kind of like trying to go through it. Hey, Skylar, let's design a watch together this year and send it through Watch Crunch, then auction it off during Veterans Day. Yo, man, that's a cool idea. We'll talk about that. I like that. I like that. I'm all for auctioning and then giving it to a better cause. All about that, brother. We'll talk. Montrose strap is another one that we're going into. That was my second company that sent me some straps to do. Oh, my third company that sent me some straps. My first FKM. You guys know how I feel about Montrose strap, man. I'm not going to go through it because I pretty much present his straps with my watches. I don't have one here today, but you guys know how I feel about it. So at this point, just try it for yourself is where we got to go. Then I did Tandorio, which was a Grand Seiko vintage, a Grand Seiko homage, clomage, if you will. So staying on theme with those super affordable watches, wanting to keep to including them. As you guys saw, we had some independent brands, we had some builds, we have some affordable watches, and all of that replicates the way that I was collecting. Now, again, I'm maturing as a collector, so I'm steering more towards people's own language and have a little bit more of a what's the word I'm looking for here? I have more of a standard now. I'm looking for more features. There are more boxes on my list that have to be checked off. I'm not impressed with something shiny. You know, that'll draw me in. right? Like he says in that movie, now you have my attention. But at the end of the day, I have to say, okay, what's the bracelet like? What's the movement? What's this? What's that? And that happens, man. That's normal. I'm not an alien. I know that happens a lot with you guys, but it still has its place, and it will always have a place in my collection. I'll never not have watches that I built. I'll never not have watches that homage, clomage. I'm always gonna have them in the mix at the end of the day, because somewhere down the line, even if it's 3 years from now, somebody's gonna be brand new to the channel, and it may be helpful for them. Mark time, I did the M1.2 after that, which is the bronze watch that I have in my collection. You guys know how I love and feel about that. That's been paired with the Montrose strap. They're pretty much married at this point. His leather strap is phenomenal. It's nothing wrong with the strap that it comes with it, but it was it hit different. Zezimi watches. Another brand that I reached out to do a collaboration. You guys saw my white eyes come out first with them. They actually liked my work and continue to want to work with me. They're another brand to watch when it comes to mass-produced Chinese watches. When it comes to quality, when it comes to everything else. Now, their design language is heavily homaged. So you may be past that point, but again, there are people that stay in that zone, which is fine. If you stay in the homage clomage zone, and that is where you find the most appreciation, and you don't have to go outside of that. Maybe it's money, maybe it's not money, maybe it's just like I just don't want to spend more money. I'm happy with these. Cool. The name is something that people have somewhat of an issue for. Me, I don't personally care, but they sent me the white eyes. I didn't have to return that back. I did my deep dive review. You guys could check that out. Then I showed you guys a walkthrough for the Philly show. So you saw me get my feet wet at the show and saw, me plotting and planning and how I'm going to go about doing the reveal. I got a lot of tricks in my bag for this year. I keep wanting to say next year. This year's watch shows, more specifically the New York Wind-Up Fair is what I'm talking about. I have a lot in store, and I hope a lot of you that are watching at this moment are going to be there, and we can definitely touch base and do something together. I'm probably going to be heavily focused on getting a lot of footage and everything of the like, but that's a time to come together and vibe out. So we did the Philly show, which Mark Time was there, by the way. Nomoki, we did the Alpine. I told you guys the other day, I was super excited to do that one because of the reason of the one that got away with the SARB 017. Now, again, that's still homage, clomage to that. It's not obviously the exact one, but because I had that feeling of the one that got away, and that watch is now $1,400, 017, I was just super excited, man. And I'm excited to build any watches and give you guys the play-by-play of what I'm going through and what I'm experiencing and what mistakes I made. I don't just give you guys, when I do my modifications or I do my build videos, more so my build videos, right? Because there's more to that. I take my time to explain the exact process that I'm in. And even with all the videos that I've did, I haven't covered every single thing that I could cover. There's so many things that can go wrong that most likely don't go wrong, because I don't want to scare you if you're looking into doing that. But there's a lot of insight, and I think they're of value. Let me know if you guys ever watch any of those videos and if you like the way that I construct it. But I have a lot of fun doing it, man. Chat. I have to be at the yes sir New York show. Money thing people do with stolen designs. It has nothing to do with, yeah, exactly. I have to try them out this year. Hey, Skylar, let's design. Okay, I read that. We're caught up. Let's keep it moving. Orion watches. So Watch Crunch is where I reached out to him. I wanted to do a review of his watch. I like that thing. And that was vintage inspiration, and that was more of a Gata watch, and that was the biggest talk of 24. It's going to carry over to 25, I'm sure. Fantastic watch, man. Just the size, the dimensions, the finishing. You guys can see the review and know what I'm talking about. Check that out if you can. I was really impressed with his watches. He's still working on new iterations and still coming out with new stuff. So he's definitely somebody to look at. If you haven't looked at an Orion watch yet, check it out. I gave you guys a modification to the F91W. After that, we talked about vintage. I just saw a review about vintage. I didn't do necessarily a deep dive review because the watch was technically not in production. However, they collaborated themselves to do a event where they sent a watch around the world. Again, going to be auction, talking about that auction type of thing that we do as events as watch collectors and enthusiasts, and then donate to a charitable fund. So I had a lot of fun with that watches. There's definitely some advantages to it. They have quartz movements that have the sweeping second hand in there. So they have that and they have the mechanical. So when you talk about stepping into the price point of for value, great brand to check out as well. I probably want to feature one of their production models somewhere down the road. I talked about some G-Shock, some very easy G-Shock. Talked about Zezimi again. After that, we did a collaboration. Now, I've done a collaboration with Zezimi for almost all their watches. The only one that I didn't cover was their Owl Edition. But I was intrigued. I was intrigued to see the next Baltony, the next San Martin. I really feel that they're on that track. I would love to see them transition to more unique designs as fast as they can because they're making quality stuff, and I think that they're on that track. Going back to Vario, let me check the chat. Super chat. Trap Vision 3D, thank you so much for the super chat, brother. I really do appreciate it. The year of the learning professional. Hey, man, I hope so. You know, let's all learn together. Let's all stay on course. Thank you so much for the super chat, brother, man. I do appreciate you. Vario, I did their reversible. Versa, reversible. Okay, so when I went to that Philly show, I put my name into a raffle. I won that watch. It's no longer with me. I gave it to my brother-in-law because he loves rectangles and squares. It fits his wrist a lot better. That was the only reason why I decided to gift it to him. And he actually attended the show with me, okay? And we both entered into the raffle, and I told him, I said, hey, listen, if either of us win, obviously if you win, but if I win, that's your watch. And I'm a man of my word. So I did the review video of it. And then I gifted him that timepiece. And that's an awesome, awesome timepiece, guys. If you haven't checked out the Vario Reversa and you're into that dress watch, you're into that tank kind of style, magnificent. We went to Namoki versus Alpine. That's an obvious thing. I was comparing and contrasting, getting an actual Seiko Alpinist to the Namoki Alpine build. You guys can check that video out. That was actually like one of the more populars. Then I did the wind-up fair video, man. That was a lot of fun. I'm sure most of you saw that. That gave me the groundwork to how I want to orchestrate that for this year. I gotta say this year. Super fun. I saw you guys put into chat about that as well, so I know I'm going to see a few of you there. Super excited about that for this year. That is my Super Bowl, yeah? If we're focusing on independent and say 130 brands, next year is probably going to be 150. If I had to guess, it's growing. It's growing. And if you ever needed a recharge and if you ever wanted to vibe out, that's the place to be. And I can tell you this, I went all 3 days. All 3 days it was packed. So it was a vibe. I had a lot of fun. I featured a lot of brands. It was very quick. Next year I'll be entering in as a content creator. So hopefully I could get in the doors ahead of time and get better coverage for you guys. I might compile that to one. That's a lot of work, but I feel like that is a better product in my opinion, rather than doing 150 separate videos of 3-minute clips. But maybe I'll do it into 2. I don't know. A lot of plans, a lot of planning still going underway with that. From there, we did another Zezimi video. This was the Nighthawk, so it was much like the one prior, except this was a GMT and it was a quartz watch. So wait, excuse me. No. That was an NH34. Was that a quartz watch? Hold on, I'm slipping right now. We'll get back to you on that. Then I did a video talking about my thought process in the behind the scenes of watch reviewing and pay to play, right? I gave you guys my experience. I didn't talk out of pocket about what it would be like for somebody more established. I talked about me and my mindset and my thought process of it. So I think I got canceled a little bit from a couple of people on that one. But you know what, man? It is what it is, man. I got to tell you guys the truth. I got to tell you guys how I truly feel about the subjects and things like that. I even had a couple of content creators say, man, why did you even have to address this? You put the paid promotion. That should be the end of the conversation. They're right to a certain degree. But I felt like doing the video and again, it wasn't a shot at me. It was more like elaborating on the subject. But you know, it is what it is, and that's how I feel about it, and that's how we're moving. Now, my mindset might change. I never say that, you know, other than being corrupt, obviously, we're never going to change our mind about that. But maybe things change as far as how that gets orchestrated. Montro came out with a leather strap. Did a video on that. Check that out. We did a giveaway on that one as well. 11 rules of watch collecting. That video was very special to me. And it's kind of funny because I couldn't monetize that one because I used music that was copyright. But anyway, I don't care. It was still worth it. I watched a video that showed a lot of passion about what they were talking about. I wanted to do a video that was outside of just a review video. I wanted to give you guys my opinion about the 11 rules, right? And these are my rules, these are my opinions. If you feel differently, no problem. But that was a real special video for me to make. And if you guys haven't checked that out, check that out. After which we did the pole router from the Moki. We talked about that recently, so I don't want to get into that, but that was a lot of fun. Again, I gave you guys tips and tricks. Block Company was actually really special because my wife is a preschool teacher by profession for over a decade's time. I think she's closer to 15, 16 years, maybe even more. So to give her a watch built for kids, while she teaches kids, maybe she lets them wrist it. It was a super special gift. And that one wasn't sponsored because it was a gift for her 35th birthday. And very special. And I didn't see any reviews out there for Block. And I was like, man, they're doing some, and you guys know I'm an advocate for the youth when it comes to horology. So, man, I felt like I just had to cover them. And I know there's other creators out there that are working on something as well. So you're going to see more from that company. They recently came out with a 38 for older people or bigger kids. So I think that they're sending me that watch, and that one's going to be sponsored. We left off there. I don't know if they're busy or something like that. It is what it is. If they never send it, it is what it is. I still had a lot of fun, and it was on theme with my mission statement to bring value to also youth getting into horology. Then we have the Venicico Nerede a Oreo. Trap, that was for you. Nerede. Now, with a Western tongue, you can say Nerede. You can say Nerede. I watched review videos from people that were speaking of the watch in their native tongue. Nerede is how they pronounce it. A Oreo. You can pronounce it however you want, but that's the way that I like to pronounce it because I like to get as close as I can to the native tongue. That was a watch that was super impactful for me as a channel. Again, I talked about how Venicico is reaching out and looking to expand and getting into creators' channels. And they reached out to me, said, hey, we'd love for you to do another review because I reviewed the watch that I purchased from them, the Aventurine. And that was the watch that I chose because when I went to the wind-up fair and I picked this up, I was like, oh, no. Is this gold, my guy? What did he just say? So when I picked this up, I was super, and I'm talking about literally picked it up at the watch show just to look at it. I was taken back, and I already knew that they were doing things with dials, but to incorporate a gold-plated dial, tungsten bezel, improve on their bracelet as is, polishing not so much should have been the case, but this is a very nice San Sabino bracelet going from the Canova. I was definitely like, hey, that's the watch that I would love to take a look at. And they allowed me to keep it, man. So that for me, and it's not so much the numeric value of it, man. It was so, like, if this watch just was at $500, right? I still would feel the same way because at the end of the day, it still has a whole bunch of features that at this point in my journey, I can appreciate as a little bit more of a seasoned reviewer, I would say. So I was super appreciative of that. And I love the brand. I don't know what else to say. I don't know what to tell you. Love it, love it, love it. And that gold, now, I did come across videos of Wise, and they're doing their 24 karat gold one. So maybe I'll be lurking on that one. I don't know. Maybe I'll reach out to them. I'm now intrigued with gold-plated dials. Pretty cool. At the show, we purchased an Islander, an ISL 245 Port Jefferson Miota 9075. I love saying that because I feel cool that I know all those numbers and I don't make a mistake on that. You guys ever watch those Rolex videos where they only identify the Rolex by like the model? I always thought that was cool, man. So this one just stuck in my mind. But this was the takeaway for the year, the ISL. This is the GMT version. Now, you guys know that I modified the bezel insert, so that's going to look a little different. But other than that, it was my first true traveler GMT. Islander's a fantastic brand. I've been saying that pretty much since the beginning, right? And as a matter of fact, we talked about earlier on my SKX video, I actually talked about his watch being a good replacement watch to purchase for the SKX 007 and 009, which he saw that market, he saw that it was being discontinued, and he improved on it. So I was really happy to put an Islander in my collection. He's doing fantastic things with collaborations with creators and the like moving forward. So we're going to see some very interesting stuff in 2025. And I definitely think that this is a brand worth mentioning. I paid this full price, so this was not sponsored, as you're probably not shocked by, because we saw how he felt about review, pay to play, this, that, and the third, but that's not what this is about. Islander's a fantastic brand. I definitely wanted to put one in my collection. Guys, I love this watch. And yes, there's a little bit to that because I put the bezel insert there. It's just a beautiful wintertime type of vibe to me, and I think this is the only watch that I officially purchased to put in my collection. I was so distracted whether I kept watches or they got sent back. There was so much coming in and out, and I did feel a little satisfied even when I borrowed the watches, because I got to, I mean, imagine that, right? So for me, I'm gonna say something crazy, and I don't mind saying stuff that may get me canceled with somebody, but to me, a lot of these independent brands feel like luxury, feel like Rolex, feel like Omega and the sort. Now, granted, they don't have the things to compare them tit for tat. What I'm telling you is, in my opinion, in my perspective, me as a collector, maybe it has something to do with going with very, very affordable watches and then seeing all of the features going into their watches coming out and all the passion behind it and everything else and how they listen to the community. But for me, these watches felt like that. And imagine if you could go to Rolex and say, hey, can I borrow a Submariner for a couple of weeks or a month or two and send it back to you? What did you just say? So to me, when these brands collaborate with me and they let me borrow their watches, man, it gives a little bit of the fixing for the itching. And yeah, man, it's super cool. So I didn't have to put too many in my collection. Plus I needed to slow down because I was getting up there in the number. Now I want to run through the next ones because we're over the hour already and I wanted to stick to that. But I want to show you guys a little quick sneak peek. You guys seen this watch so many times. I actually purchased this watch myself. I wanted to see what the hype was about it. I'm going to save my comments for it for the review, but this is an At East Dive. We all know that they've become a name when it comes to the affordable space. This is their Gotta watch, as we already know is a thing. I was able to experience their finishing. Now this has a mechanical, a quartz movement in here that just happens to have that smooth sweep. So I wanted to see what that was all about, and I did experience that with the About Vintage, but this was at, oh, man, I want to say $40. Like, it was ridiculously affordable. So I wanted to see what it's about, and I can say that I am content for the price that it is. I'm not mad at it. I will have my improvements when I finally get around to, and that's another reason why I said I need to just review the watches that I have, because I just have watches that are even relative to the state of what's offered, and I want to run through that. Again, that Islander, I want to do a review for eventually. We'll do a deep dive. And then we're left with the last video that I have uploaded, which is Erebus. And I do have the Erebus on here. Oh, by the way, this At East Dive is in my wife's collection, because the moment she saw that, she said, yeet. She did the same thing with the Erebus. Yeet. Erebus. Super. This goes back into the collaborations. I was able to keep this watch. I did reach out to the brand to do a review of it. And I was super excited because this is on theme. And we're going to conclude this live this way. This is on theme from what I've been talking about for a couple of videos, a couple of lives now. Our expectations are graduating. It's normally going to do that anyway. So I think it's in a watch brand's best interest to compose themselves to keep up with the checklist of specifications that a nerd is going to want out of their watches. Another aventurine glass, so now we have a his and hers from my Venicico to this Erebus. And you guys saw my review video on it, I hope, and you guys know that technically they killed it. They killed it as far as the checklist goes for enthusiasts. They left no stone unturned. The only thing, and you saw my video that I said, is obviously it doesn't have the brand history, and obviously it still has a lot of homage inspiration. But other than that, and again, the brand is probably building up cash flow to segue into something that's very expensive. What's very expensive is putting your own design language and separating yourself even more so. So I expect great things from Erebus. They've done fantastic things so far, and they have to keep up with the way that they compose their bracelets, their finishing, and everything else of the like. And you saw my video. I put a little thing where I was like, oh, you know, if you use Japanese movements, just you might want to regulate them just to make them a little bit more appealing. That being the only gap, running perfectly. This watch, of course, when I say it, it was all zeros, bro. Not all zeros, you know what I mean? What's important to not have a zero, but it was like, woo, it was running smoothly. Now that was this watch. Does that mean it's going to be for every single watch? No, they're giving you what the tolerances is going to be. But I would like to see independent brands have regulation in their movements so far. And there are people that are already doing it. Maybe they're a little upset that I'm bringing that to light because they like having that little bit of separation for themselves. But as far as like an overall improvement goes, whether it be an NH movement, whether it be a PT 5000, whether even if it's an SW 200, we saw Mark Well is regulating an SW 200. So there's nobody who's really safe when it comes to that. More so when it comes to movements that have a higher tolerance for plus or minus. But either way, no matter how you slice it, I think that that's a valuable thing to go into. And we've talked about what we expect now from bracelets. So there's a lot of different things, and there's a lot of different, a big different way that I have my mindset moving forward for what I'm looking for in an independent brand. So just before signing off, guys, I want to give you guys a real quick list of the companies that I'm looking after. I wanted to get a little bit more into it. As to why and everything else, but we've kind of touched on them a little bit before, and we're way over the hour at this point. So Jack Mason just came out with a video. Watch that video. That's all I'm going to say. I'm watching them for 2025. Actually, I had a conversation with him at Windup October, and he told me that they're going to be doing, they have a lot of things in store for 2025. I mean, he told me, so I guess he's okay with me telling you. I think they're going to do an anniversary watch, right? I think he stressed in that video the aviation watch that they did. I think they're going to redo that now. It was really nice to see a lot of their story and a lot of the elbow grease that they put in to build up the brand. It was so humbling. I give Jack Mason so many flowers because they do stuff like that, right? They don't just rely on creators like us or reviewers like us. They have their own channel where they talk to us as a community. They give us their backstory. They give us their inspiration. They do it very, very well. They make fantastic watches. I learned something watching that video. I didn't know that the Strato timer was born from the Miyota 9075. That being a newer nuance to what is available to us and what we can get in a more affordable rate versus what true travelers used to cost. So for them to enter in, or not, they didn't enter in with the Strato timer, but I think the Strato timer kind of like propelled them because of that reason. And Miyota had a conversation with them where they say, we want you. So there's a lot to that video. Please go ahead and watch it on your own. I've always loved those boys. I got to put a watch in my collection from them. I just have to do it. They may be the 2025 watch that I do it. I'm going to probably hit Peter up and see if he'll let me borrow one or two of the watches for me to do a review on, because I want to definitely give them a spotlight because I feel like that they're worth it. And they're really cool cats, man. Wise is another one. We talked about why. I talked about their 24 karat gold dial. They also have a GMT that's very, very nice. They're using 904 stainless steel. They're doing everything that we want out of the bracelet. They're hitting all of those marks. And who knows, you might see me just focus more so on brands like that when it comes to independent brand space. I may cover them all, but I really salivate for the ones that are covering all of the different things. And then if you splice in brand heritage, if you splice in having that separation. See, here's the deal. When you're an independent brand, the separation has to be to the effect where if I see that watch across the room, I know what watch that belongs to, which brand rather, right? So that is the hardest thing to do for an independent brand. And so that's kind of like the goal, obviously selling watches. But having your own identity is the biggest thing. And I think Wise, Jack Mason for sure. Formex is another one. I'm in talks with Formex. I should have an Essence on the channel very soon. Laurier for that vintage theme that we were just talking about for sure. And Zelos. Now, I literally just made this list when I opened my eyes, and I only did it for like 5 minutes. So that's all that I have as far as who I want to heavily focus on. This list is going to grow tremendously. If you're still tuned in, if you're watching the playback, let me know if you found any brands that are are definitely worth the deep dive and definitely worth me knocking on their door. Put that as a comment after the video is closed out for this live, and let me know who I should focus on. So those are the ones. Guys, if you didn't watch that Jack Mason video, watch it. Anywho, how? Happy New Year, guys. Really appreciative for you guys and your support. I'm really excited for 25. I'm really excited to see this channel grow, see the community grow. It's already past the point that I thought that it would be. So I'm really, really appreciative for you guys for tuning in, for supporting me, for having my back, saying compliments to me constantly, the connections that I've made. It's just really, really awesome. And I'm like a rocket ship. I'm ready to go, baby. I'm ready to go out to the moon. So with that, appreciate you guys. Happy New Year officially. And thank you so much for spending your most valuable asset, which is time. I love you guys. I'll see you real soon. Take care. Peace.